All right, welcome everyone. Jeanette, Mike, thank you for joining us again and sharing. I'm very much looking forward to this. If there's nothing else that I can say about IDEA members, it is that they are definitely always about the students. So this is going to be a great resource, I'm sure, for those that are joining us today. So you should have gotten the little notification. We are recording this. We will follow up with the recording and resources that Jeanette and Michael will be sharing. And with that, let's kick it right off, Jeanette.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm Jeanette Simonson. So great to be with you all. As a former Illinois educator, I know we're always striving to find new innovative ways to help students understand themselves, but also make our lives easier too. And so, having been a middle school teacher, I know that many students flew under the radar in my classrooms, and part of that pains me, but I'm really happy to bring to you a new way that we can try to really access students. So happy to be with you today. I'll let my colleague, Mike, introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Hurley, and I'm here in the Chicago area for any of you Illinois folks, and for anyone from out of town, from far away, welcome. Please come visit Chicago in the lovely winter. It's about 0 degrees, or I don't know what it is anymore. But so hopefully we're all nice and warm and we can learn some great stuff today and share some thoughts about student well-being.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, here's how you can reach both of us on social media, on our Twitter or LinkedIn. We will be sharing this presentation with you as well, so you can look back to this. But certainly we've put in both of our strengths. As you look at, my strengths and Mike Hurley's strengths, we've got some differing strengths. And I think that's important to lead us off in thinking about how we're supporting our students. Do you know what your student strengths are, and how are we getting that information will be kind of our topic for today. So we're really looking at a couple of inquiry questions here that I just want to kind of ask you to reflect on, and we'll ask you to put something in the chat in a second. But how can building a strengths-based culture help support student well-being? And when we think about strengths-based and student well-being, I want you to really ground yourself and maybe even close your eyes and thinking about, what does that look like and feel like? What is happening in the classroom when you're having a strengths-based organization, strengths-based culture happening? Of course, trust, autonomy, and joy are involved in this process. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we build some of these really essential feelings, if you will, into our well-being for students. And then, of course, how Thrively we're built on trying to find a solution for problems that exist out there. So we'll share with you how we're trying to support students and teachers. But what I want you to do in the chat is not only introduce yourself, let us know where you're from, anything that is top of mind for you today, but also maybe answer one of these questions, or all of them if you feel motivated to. What does it take to thrive as a student? And then what do students need more of in order to be successful, thriving students? And what do students need less of? So let's take a minute or so to kind of ponder those questions and introduce ourselves, of course, too. Yeah, and thank you for sharing your role too, because I'll be talking a little bit about different roles later on as we introduce ourselves. Wonderful. I see some deans, some counselors, some teachers. You guys all have a different perspective probably on some of these questions. And I think we can all learn from each other. So what do students need more of, and what do they need less of? What does it take to be a thriving student? Mike, if you start to get some things in the chat, feel free to maybe shout them out or share them with us.
Yeah, we've got Carolyn shared that students need effective role models. They need to feel some sort of success in any part of school, and that's for sure. And I'm going to add on to that. They need to hear that from us too.
Absolutely.
Amber sharing with us. Thanks, Amber. Students need to know there is support, a relationship, a trusting adult. Exactly.
Absolutely. Those are great. Thank you for sharing, everybody. And if you think of something later, please feel free to put it in there, because I think as we think about these questions, these are goals for us as teachers. Sometimes we get mandated things, but also it comes from internally. What do we want to give more opportunities to the students? What does that look like? And so I know for me, voice and choice, we've heard that time and time again. I was constantly trying to find a way to give them more opportunities to share with me who they were, because I was striving to get to know who they were, what they were all about. And if you're on, if you're not on mute, go ahead and mute. But certainly, as you look at the Thrively platform, and for those of you that are familiar with Thrively and have come to these webinars before, our first step in the Thrively journey really involves knowing your students. We're going to talk mostly about that today, how we build this learner outcome that they feel like they have talents, that they belong here in this classroom, in this school, I'm respected and valued, and of course, that they have a contribution to make. So what does that look like? And as we start to dive into that, of course, we've been struggling with this whole idea of how to continue to get students engaged. This was a really great quote, from Gallup a while ago. Students are 30 times more engaged when their school is committed to building on their strengths and a teacher makes them excited for their future. So as we think about that, number one, we need to know what are some of their goals for the future, but what are their strengths? What's their focus today? I taught middle school, as I mentioned, and it's amazing to think about middle schoolers and how they've adjusted their thoughts and feelings over the course of time, because they're in this exploration mode. So getting to know that is so important. And, as we start to give more voice and choice, we're looking at this human-centered design. CASEL's done a great job of helping us look at it from self-awareness, self-management, but also, some of those social awareness pieces, and then looking outwards, who needs to be involved in these conversations. I think, one of the things that really grounded me is when students are known for their strengths and they feel that we are highlighting that. They're given time for their interests. I just noticed I have 2 R's there. They're given time for their interests and they feel a sense of belonging. They're willing to open up and trust us. They're willing to open up and share, and we can navigate together through all of the trials and tribulations we're going through right now. So I want you to take a minute and just reflect and write about the first memory of a time when an influential person recognized your strengths, skills, or talents. How did that make you feel? And what came of it? So let's take a minute or two. And if you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. We will be making this presentation available to you, as well as a form. I don't know, Mike, if you want to put it in again. But we're just kind of thinking about strengths and how did it make you feel when you were recognized for something that maybe wasn't apparent before? You had a strength, a skill, or a talent, and somebody went, wow, I'm impressed with how you did that. Or you're really quite organized or have an innovative mindset.
We talk about this a lot in our Thrively meetings and talk about influential teachers, somebody who recognized something in us. Jeanette was just sharing with me yesterday about an influential coach she had in her life, and just what these things mean to you. You still remember these things 20, 30, or people like me 40 years later when you're reflecting back on them, and it still sticks with you. So know that could be you in a child's life.
Mm-hmm. So we're really trying to tap into, how do I know? And sometimes the strength isn't quite apparent in the classroom. Maybe it's a strength outside of the classroom. Like, for instance, Mike was just mentioning this influential coach of mine noticed my athleticism. I'm not sure that would have showcased in a classroom, and really ended up changing the trajectory of my life. So, shout out to Mr. Dave Bose, who unfortunately passed away 2 days ago, but he impacted many, many, many lives of many people out there. And so be that person. How can we help you be that person, right? And so it really goes back to knowing your students' strengths. These are the 23 strengths that exist in Thrively. With this strength assessment, it was built from the ground up by 2 pediatric neuropsychologists. And think about it for a second. If you look at these and you say, wow, I think I have, a strength for compassion, or a strength for my case, athleticism, coordination, or maybe you have a strength for being focused or being a leader. And so if you take the strength assessment, this will highlight for the students really these wonderful strengths, these top 5 strengths, and you'll get to know them on a different level than just from an academic standpoint. With our strength assessment, it is free to any student out there. So you can log on today. We'll give you directions on how to do that later, and go ahead and know your students. I think another thing to point out is that we are SOPA compliant. And so you can absolutely go ahead and launch that with your school district and connect us with anybody you need to in terms of getting rosters and stuff. It's really easy to lead with strengths. And so for an example, compassion. I'm sure we've got a lot of people in here. Go ahead if you are on the chat. What do you think is one of your strengths? And it could be a word that isn't even in our 23, but what is a strength of yours that maybe you have, or you want to make sure that other people know about? If compassion is one of those strengths, how are we going to utilize you in our different environments, with our groups, with our learning opportunities? And we really have an opportunity in knowing our students to be able to put them in groupings so that we've got diverse thinking in our groups. So when we lead with strengths, and as you can see here, we in the platform on Thrively, you can click on insights and I can see the breakdown of a classroom. Flexibility, analytical, resilience. These are the top strengths of my students. And I've got 15 kids who are showing the strength of flexibility. So this can be an opportunity to highlight and celebrate them, while also making sure that we utilize that strength in different learning environments. So thank you to those of you who shared. We've got some resilience, some courage, a drive to continue learning. That's why you're here. That's awesome. These are all great strengths as well. And you think about yourself and you're a learner in your ecosystem. Do your admin know your strengths, right? It trickles down if you're creating that culture. So I want to take a moment, because obviously the strength assessment is really the way that we launch, but we've recently had an opportunity to partner up with Turnaround for Children. And this well-being index, I'm going to play this video for you in a moment, really highlights how in 60 seconds you can know your students, how they're feeling and functioning that day.
The brain's capacity to be fully activated happens when children and youth feel emotionally and physically safe. Turnaround for Children and Thrively have partnered together to bring you the Well-Being Index. We take attendance every day, yet are our students ready to attend? Positive emotions such as interest and excitement open up the mind to learning when students realize they are part of a supportive environment with deep relationships with their adults. In as little as 60 seconds, you'll get a pulse check on the well-being of each and every learner in your classroom. Self-awareness is developed when well-being data is visualized in a way that makes sense to the learner. Student trend data becomes personalized and contextual. In the data dashboard for staff, relationships engage children in the human community in ways that help them define who they are, what they can become, and how and why they are important to other people. Research points to 3 common elements across settings that contribute to positive emotional development: a supportive environment, developmental relationships, and opportunities for integrated academic, skill, and mindset development. If a school creates the conditions for healthy, whole child development, we expect students to build skills and mindsets for success. We want students to believe in their capacity to learn and to be able to connect, communicate, and collaborate, as well as manage themselves and direct their actions. The power of the interactive tools in Thrively allows students to communicate clearly, cooperate with others, resist inappropriate social pressures, negotiate conflict constructively, and seek the guidance and help of others when needed. Let's move beyond attendance and attend to our students' well-being.
Excellent. So really you see from this, we've got so many opportunities to be able to connect to our students with this well-being index. So I'm going to take a minute. Let me
The brain's capacity to be fully...
try to click and then I get off this. Let me minimize this for a second. My internet is not... Okay, there we go. Perfect. So
the brain's capacity...
Sorry, everyone. There we go. Okay, so as you see, what was kind of highlighted here was a number of questions that populate, and it's on a sliding scale. So we can see that James has said, you know, he's feeling pretty active. He's really hopeful about the future, but he's not been waking up feeling so rested. And we can see over here, this little, you know, heart pops up and kind of gives us an indication, hey, 2 kids have shared with you how they're doing. And so we can go in and we can see, what is James saying? You know, I'm much better this week. I'm doing a check-in. And I can see over time, if you're an administrator or a counselor, you can see over time how certain classes or students are doing and trend data. And maybe there's something going on that we need to attend to. Maybe there's a spike, and why is there a spike that's positive? We want to capture that. So with this well-being index, we've got a lot of data that we can collect on a daily basis. But I also want to share with you, and nothing is more heartfelt than the qualitative data that we can get. And so I want to share with you a little bit about what students and teachers are saying. We'll watch just a little bit of this.
Hi, I'm Sufraja Narayanaswamy from New York. I work for Turnaround for Children, and I'm going to share a little bit about the organization and the creation of the Wellbeing Index tool that we're all talking about today. We know it's challenging to know what's going on with every student every day and use that information in a meaningful way, which is why the Wellbeing Index was created. The Wellbeing Index lets students be part of the conversation intentionally and systematically. The Wellbeing Index aims to take an assets-based approach. It's asking about measuring well-being to show students, educators care about them, that they see them and want to understand them deeply. It's about talking to students about their well-being, to empower students and give them a voice and support their agency towards their goals. And it's about using well-being data not in silos, but along with all these other data points and context and information about the student to ensure and start robust teacher-student conversation and holistic understanding about kids.
What we'd love to do right now is just really talk about the impact that this has had about focusing on student and staff well-being, specifically starting with V. V, we had a question for you. What would you love to tell educators or teachers about the importance of paying attention to students and their feelings?
It's nice to know that you have someone at school that does care about you and stuff. And personally, I feel like when I know that a teacher does care about me, it makes me want to work harder in their class.
Ms. Greider, can you share a little bit more about that, like the ability for you to check in on your kids and what you noticed and being able to see their emotions now and what that difference has made for you?
When the index first was available, I was thrilled to have just a engaging little slidey, frowny, or smiley face, easy way for them to just bam, 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 click, 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 click. And the reflective journal gave me such a fast way to go in and just read whatever they wrote. And I quickly realized that, oh my gosh, some children need this outlet. I thought everything was fine by looking at their, face from the nose up, but I quickly realized they needed an outlet to just non-verbally communicate something's going on, Ms. Greider.
V, as you're kind of thinking about this and all the teachers and educators are talking and they're like, wow, what else comes to mind for you about your peers or what you've noticed about your friends in terms of being able to build friendships and relationships and seeing that modeled by your teacher? Have you noticed anything different?
Some of my friends said that it helps their mental state of mind, that it is great to use in hard times, and sometimes it is hard to talk with teachers in real life, but with Thrively you don't have to. It's like texting your teacher.
What I noticed, we had one
So I'm going to pause right there. The rest of the video is there for you for later on, but I think that really is a testament. I've talked to a couple of these students before. This is a school in Texas that's been using it for a while, and they really feel like there's an unconditional friend at school, that no matter what's going on in their life, they have someone to talk to. And more we're really seeing the impact that this can have on building that relationship and building this opportunity. So we take that information, we build these great relationships. And the other thing, obviously, we're all talking about SEL and well-being. Thrively definitely supports you with lessons. Even if you only have 10 minutes a day, we've got daily dose of SEL, where if students are feeling certain things, we can go in and we can find a quick lesson to assign to them to say, hey, listen, I want to send this out to you. I want to let you know that maybe you can work on some of the things we've been talking about with just a couple little lessons. And parents can be involved in the conversation too. We should never eliminate them from how they can be involved in this. Maybe there's even creativity. I know sometimes I talked to a friend who's a painter this weekend, and she said, whenever I'm stressed out, I go paint and I draw. So, helping students understand that if you're feeling certain things, maybe there's an outlet that you have. So this daily dose of creativity, again, has some really great opportunities for students to find, ignite that fire again as we look at joy. The other thing I love, and Mike and I have done this actual self-portrait. It's here we've done it with staff and students live, but this one's a real simple one where you can do a brain break, and it's just a blindfolded self-portrait. And you just take a moment out of the day. Maybe you're feeling, that the kids need to take a brain break, and you draw yourself, you close your eyes and you do a self-portrait on a pencil. Try it with your staff, try it with your students. The laughter that comes out of it is pretty fun. And certainly it gives you a chance to just take that deep breath and reconnect with each other, share it with each other, and celebrate those that, my drawing was not fantastic, but others have a real ability. So it highlights that for sure. So those are all in here. The other thing that I want to announce for those of you that are familiar with Thrively, this is a brand new opportunity inside of Thrively. For middle school and high school teachers, we always struggle with, I've got to get through so much content. What about a daily dose of SEL specifically designed for math teachers, or specifically designed for high school math teachers? So these are in here as well to give you that opportunity. I know as a former math teacher, perseverance, right? I kept talking to the kids about, how do I get through challenging things that I don't understand, or how do I lean into each other? So SEL is in everything we do. We just have to make sure we're intentionally infusing it. And what's great about these lessons is it gives students a chance to also reflect, and I'll show you that in just a minute as well. We also have SEL playlists for English, so middle school and high school for English. And then really wonderful lessons to help build self-awareness. This one's specifically for a 3rd through 5th grader, and this is 6th through 8th. And as you see here, we talked a little bit about journals. In each one of these lessons that we have inside of Thrively, it allows you an opportunity. So let me jump in and show you this actually, let me jump into lessons over here. If you jump into lessons, you can look, whoops, not authorized. What's going on? Hold on one second. Lessons. Okay. So if you jump into a lesson, let's just say you're visualizing your strengths. You can do some activities, watch some videos, read some activities. It all reads to you. But what's really great, and this is where the Wellbeing Index and our lessons allow students a chance to write directly to you. So these journal reflections go directly to you. They don't go to other students. Students have an opportunity to not only type their responses, but they can draw a picture, upload a picture, maybe do some video recording, or even audio recording. And that comes directly to you. You're able to see that in a notification up here at the top. And now you can respond again to their needs and their wants as we're looking at trying to make those connections. When we lead with identity, we really actually make sure that the students are in the center, like we talked about. And I want to just kind of watch a real mini part of this. Karen Pittman, I'm sure most of you are very familiar with, but when we lead with identity, we really build those relationships.
Young people's racial and cultural identities are critically important. And we have to acknowledge that the way we have set up opportunities for learning and development are not always respectful of the diversity that we have in this country. As we are thinking about how to maximize chances that young people are thriving, it's important to let them lead with their identity. Not bury it, but lead with it. Show it off, be proud of it, actually display it, to perform it.
So back to that first question, how do we allow students to thrive? It is leading with an identity. I think diversity is an interesting conversation because it can be diversity from an identity standpoint. It can also be a diversity about how we think or our strengths. So Thrively really wants to be a part of this solving problems that we see happening with our school districts and people we work with. And so when we build relationships based on these strengths and interests, based on the diverse identity and cultural pieces of it, we know that we're developing trust and belonging. We're giving students a voice, and we're hopefully reducing stress and helping them to overcome challenges. When we give opportunities to have access to joyful lessons that make them laugh, or projects that connect them to things that they're passionate about, we're then creating that relevance for students' future. And really, that's why we're in school, right? So coming back to a thriving student can say some of these things, and I don't know why my button's not working, but I have talents, I belong here, I'm respected and valued, and I have a contribution to make. So when we think back to those questions I asked originally, which is, what do we want to do more of? We want to do more of these activities that get a student saying these things, and less of the things that makes them feel overwhelmed or challenged or less confident about themselves, right? So I just want to make a big thank you to IDEA. We've got IdeaCon coming up very soon. Hopefully you've registered for this. We're going to have so much learning happening over these 4 days. Amber, I want to turn it over to you for just a minute to make sure that you can promote this in the way that you want to.
Thanks, Jeanette. Yes, we invite you all to attend IdeaCon. It is February 14th through the 17th. This year, we did something a little bit different in organizing our days by content area. So all of these content areas will be embedded every day, but the majority of the sessions are based on this. So as you can see, we really are putting a focus on SEL and student voice throughout the conference. Registration is still open. We do in-person registration. There is also virtual only registration. So if you do attend IdeaCon virtually, you will have access to our on-demand content through the end of the school year. So that would be open for you to do.
Wonderful. And as always, we're constantly together in partnership with learning. And so we've got another longer session coming up next Thursday, February 3rd. We're going to be creating a strengths-based culture in the classroom. We're actually going to be getting into Thrively, using Thrively. So if this piqued your interest and you want to know more, please join us February 3rd, or please share it with your friends and coworkers. We also have a brand new opportunity. We're going to be reading The Happiness Advantage right before IdeaCon. The link is here. Join our book club. The book club is actually being run through Thrively in our project tool. So it gets you an opportunity to kind of use the platform that you might want to use with students. But this book is amazing. I'm halfway through it, and I already feel a little more connected to how I can bring more happiness to my world. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and please reach out to Mike or myself if you have any questions. Mike, I want to turn it over to you if you have any last minute things you want to say.
Yeah, we're just excited to be able to do these presentations with IDEA. So thanks again, Amber, for including Thrively in doing these presentations. We will be at IdeaCon. We'll be doing a couple breakout sessions, and we'll be in the exhibitor hall. We have these other events coming up. That book club sounds really exciting, so we can't wait to do that. And just remember, I dropped it in the chat. If you do fill out this Google form that we have in here, you can go ahead and we'll offer you a free Thrively Classroom Pro license for throughout the end of this school year. So jump in, and if you ever have any questions about Thrively or how your school can get involved, just give me a call or send me an email. We'd be happy to work with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I did in this presentation, I'm going to put it in the chat, but we'll also email it out to you. How to get started for logging in. Again, we've got some information here that you can look at. It's super easy to roster students and get them logged in. So I'm going to drop this presentation in the chat so you guys have access to it. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful day, and I hope that this helps you connect more with your students. So thank you so much.